This is Fox 45 News at 10.
Tell me about why the state's attorneys from two of the largest jurisdictions in the state are teaming up to talk about legislative priorities ahead of January. Mr. Bates?
Well, you know, we have many of the same problems, the same issues.
You know, we have the most at stake in this upcoming session.
In an exclusive interview with Fox 45 News, two of Maryland's top prosecutors are saying enough is enough when it comes to juvenile crime.
They say the problem is impacting every corner of the state, and Marylanders can't wait for change. Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Those prosecutors not alone in their calls for change tonight.
We're also hearing from one grieving family who call Maryland's handling of the juvenile crime crisis a slap in the face.
When something happens, the law's not there to protect the victim and the family. It's there to continue to allow the criminal to repeat, and hurt the victims and the families.
Tonight, we have team coverage on renewed demands for change.
We begin with Mackenzie Frost's sit down with state's attorneys Ivan Bates and Aisha Braveboy in a story you're seeing first on Fox.
With less than 1 month until lawmakers return to Annapolis for the 90-day session, state's attorneys Ivan Bates and Aisha Braveboy from Baltimore City and Prince George's County coming together with one goal.
And we've had the opportunity to really talk, to share, and to say, what could we do united to, hopefully fix the problems that we're suffering together?
We look like the majority of the people who we prosecute, and we also look like the majority of the victims in our respective jurisdictions.
Juvenile crime continues to climb. Young people caught on surveillance video, sometimes in the midst of the criminal act. But right now, legislative action remains in limbo. Prosecutors like these two have been vocal about making changes, specifically to the Juvenile Interrogation Act and the Juvenile Justice Reform Act. Laws police, parents, and prosecutors have argued prevent them from securing justice and accountability.
The ultimate goal is not to lock everyone up forever. The ultimate goal is rehabilitation, but how can you have rehabilitation without accountability? And that's what we're looking for.
One proposal from these two, increasing the probation for kids who have a gun and for stealing a car. Do you think that the current laws are hindering accountability when it comes to probation for young people?
Absolutely.
Why do you think extending the length of probation will impact juvenile crime?
Well, because it keeps people, make sure they're held accountable.
Braveboy also argues with longer probation periods, it gives the young person more time to complete a program, which right now, she says, isn't always happening.
That's a problem, and that's a very real problem because there's not enough resources available through the Department of Juvenile Services. I think really just being able to have honest dialogue, because we all want the children to succeed.
You said there needs to be an honest dialogue. Is that not happening?
It's not an open dialogue. We don't know in real time when children are violating the terms of their probation.
And that's why these state's attorneys also want the Department of Juvenile Services to immediately notify the courts when a young person on home monitoring violates.
And once they've been violated, then we'd like to have the judge, the judicial magistrate, make the determination whether to bring them in and talk to them, or if they violate and the court feels that, hey, we must detain them to get their attention, that's the court's prerogative.
There have been several examples just this year of a young person already wearing an ankle monitor finding themselves involved in another crime. Two suspects arrested in connection to Baltimore's Brooklyn Day mass shooting in July on home monitoring. Right now, an attorney must approve law enforcement's questioning of a juvenile, even if a parent gives the okay. Bates says he wants to change that, requiring an attorney to be present during the questioning.
The attorney who's physically there will listen to the information, listen to the evidence, and will have the dialogue with the child and the child's parents to do what's going to be best for that child.
I think this really does put parents in a stronger position to make decisions on behalf of their children.
Bates acknowledging altering the law preventing kids 13 and younger from facing nonviolent misdemeanor charges likely won't happen this year, but he still wants changes surrounding how involved state's attorneys are in the decisions.
Right now, if it deals with a misdemeanor, where can transport a handgun or a car theft matter, or even a second-degree assault that could be, part of a robbery or something, those cases automatically go to DJS. We want to change that. We're not involved in the very beginning, having that conversation, dialogue with the police. Therefore, we can't prove the case.
Everyone, please take your seats.
Despite 3 hearings in a House committee looking at juvenile justice laws, Democrats in charge have yet to roll out a specific plan to address the concerns. Without support from at least some Democrats and the governor, it's not likely any proposal would find success in Annapolis.
Do you think there'll be support and appetite to make these changes in the General Assembly?
I think so. I think that a lot of the topics that we're hitting on are near and dear to many of our legislators, and they should be, because they're near and dear to our constituents.
At the end of the day, we serve the people. And this isn't just what we want. This is what the people have told us they want.
Now it'll be up to lawmakers to decide the path forward for these plans. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
The legislative priorities from Bates and Braveboy include proposals to change the state's organized crime laws to hold more people accountable, and their proposals to repeal a sentence modification cap and to ensure victims get compensated quicker. You can read more about the proposed legislation in this story on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Bates and Braveboy, just 2 of more than a dozen top prosecutors across Maryland calling for changes to the juvenile justice system. They say current laws leave their hands tied and allow young people to act without fear of consequences.
Some of our laws that have been passed recently do make it a little more challenging for us to hold them accountable, and that's sort of playing a role in some of the issues we're seeing at the moment.
We can only hope that they'll not listen to just folks like me or my 23 colleagues across the state or the chief prosecutors in our counties, but hopefully they'll listen to their citizens, because their citizens are saying the exact same thing. Enough's enough.
Fox 45 News has heard from frustrated residents across the state who say juvenile crime continues to impact their lives. Communities from Federal Hill to Woodlawn have held meetings to address the issue.
They catch these kids, and then 2 hours later they're released. And there must be some sort of systemic reason for that just isn't right.
If you do a crime, you've killed someone, you've stolen a car, you're committing theft repeatedly, I don't understand why there should not be a response.
Well, other residents are appealing to their lawmakers. The Brewers Hill community is calling on Delegate Luke Clippinger to examine the state's laws amid an uptick in juvenile crime in that neighborhood.
We've had an assault that's actually taken place right up along Fagley Street. We had some individuals that stole some vehicles, and we've had vehicles broken into, but we normally don't have those type of activities here in the neighborhood.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor will have more on their demands coming up at 10:30.
Now, one Harford County family speaking out 4 years after they say a teenager killed their daughter. They say the state needs to change the way it handles young criminals before other parents wind up grieving. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has their message.
Although the current juvenile laws were not in effect in 2019 when Brittany was killed, the Fosters are hoping changes will come so other parents won't feel their pain.
It's very painful. It really is. It's just painful.
Rob and Helena Foster holding on to the happy images.
There she is in brownie. Look at that. Let's see.
Of their daughter, Brittany.
I've got tons of pictures. Isn't that beautiful of her?
Because the last images they have is her casket being lowered into the ground.
That's my baby. It was an honor to be her father. And it shouldn't have been cut short like it was.
Brittany and her friend Julian Rosalie were killed in July of 2019 after being robbed in Baltimore City.
Why? Why did he have to do it? They had her pocketbook.
According to charging documents, the 2 suspects can be seen in this alley, captured on this camera. A few minutes later, you can see the suspects following the victims on this camera. And that same camera captured the 2 victims being shot execution style right here. The shooter at the time, then 17-year-old Charles Anderson, charged as an adult.
Little sweet thing.
Then he walked over to my daughter, who was on her knees crying, and executed her, putting bullets in her head. That's what happened.
But that wasn't Anderson's first violent crime.
When he was 17 years old, he committed a crime when he was 16, but then he was arrested for armed robbery, assault, gun charges when he was 17. And then a couple days later, the judge, Judge Bloomquist, let him out on a $100,000 unsecured bond without any conditions, because 6 months later, he robbed and murdered my daughter.
At Anderson's sentencing this past Friday, his attorney claimed at the time of the murder, his client didn't know what he was doing because of his age.
Rob, when you heard what the attorney said, tell me how that made you feel.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing because I was wondering what was going to be their defense. And all it was is talking points from Annapolis.
He's referring to DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi, who says a person should not be exposed to the prison system before the age of 25.
And he had brought up about, well, Your Honor, they're finding now that when that you're not, that your brain is not fully developed until you're 25 years old.
Although Brittany's murder happened before the state's current juvenile crime laws took effect, these parents say they're opening the door for crimes like this to happen more often. They say they want to close the book on the current juvenile crime laws.
We have to find a way, all of us, to work together to reform these laws, because if we don't, what we're seeing now, it's out of control.
Before more parents end up grieving.
It's just sad that I'll never see her again until I die.
Anderson's co-defendant was sentenced last year for his part in the robbery. Now inside that courtroom was his now 14-year-old brother as the judge handed down a 40-year sentence. That 14-year-old charged with armed carjacking 2 weeks ago. In the control room, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi will be a panelist at a Senate President Bill Ferguson's town hall next Monday aimed at addressing juvenile crime and public safety concerns in Baltimore. But as Vincent just mentioned, Schiraldi has some controversial views on juvenile justice. And while the governor has called the DJS Secretary a reformer, others say his views are making Maryland less safe.
You're basically saying up until the age of 25, which is what he wants to do, you get a free ride.
Unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
DJS is also facing questions about how it keeps track of the children in its system. A Fox 45 investigation revealed the department has 14 staff members to look after more than 100 kids. That is nearly a 1-to-9 ratio. And many of the children not at a DJS facility are under home monitoring. But prosecutors tell Fox 45 News that penalties for breaking home monitoring start with a discussion with the child. Mackenzie was talking about this, rarely involving a judge. Former prosecutor Roy Hanna says that's not enough of a deterrent.
The child knows they can go out, they can do whatever they want, behave any kind of way, and maybe they'll get a stern talking to for 10 or 15 minutes. That's not going to teach them anything.
House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you feel your juvenile crime concerns are not being heard, contact them. We have their phone numbers, email addresses right there on your screen.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Bill Ferguson and Adrian Jones to protect your family? 99% of those who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. Fox 45 News is hosting our town hall on public safety next week. We invite you to join us. City Councilman Eric Costello and mayoral candidate Sheila Dixon will be on the panel. It takes place Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. at Leadenhall Baptist Church. I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for watching. Here's another video to watch. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel.